avoid these RV campsite mistakes. Today, we got some mistakes that you should avoid, especially if you're new to RVing, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here today. Over our 5 years of full-time RV life, we've learned so many of these the hard way, and they're not that hard to avoid if you just know to watch out for them. So let's dive into the list. First thing to avoid for your campsite is avoid cheap camping chairs. I cannot tell you how many times Olivia and I have bought cheap camping chairs only to have them break, be completely uncomfortable, make our limbs fall asleep when we're sitting on them for a longer period of time. It wasn't until year 3 that we actually invested in some nice camping chairs. And by nice, I mean like zero gravity chairs. They cost probably 50 bucks a piece. They're not super expensive, but they have lasted so much longer. We've only had to replace one of them. We probably bought 20 camping chairs at least. And the last 3 of them have lasted the last 2 years without having to need to be replaced. So avoid buying a cheap camping chair. Don't trust the campground power. If you're staying at an RV park or a state park or a national park and they're providing power to your RV site, don't just trust it blindly. Please travel with some sort of surge protector. A lot of times these power poles are providing underpowered energy. You might think underpowered energy is better than higher powered energy, but underpowered energy can actually damage some of your most expensive appliances inside the RV. Number one being the air conditioner. If it's not receiving enough power, you can do some true damage to that. So if you trust those things blindly, you can harm your internal components of the RV, and that would be a bad thing out on one of your first camping trips. The other thing to avoid is not being able to have a campfire outside because of fire bans. 6 months out of the year at least is fire season across the country. And for good measure and for good reason, these campsites in these areas will have fire bans. And that means you can't have a campfire. The one way that we've found to scoot around those fire bans is by having a propane fire pit. We use an Outland Living fire pit. In every ban that we've been in, they've allowed propane fires because you can turn them on with a click and you can turn them off with a click. They provide ambiance and heat. You can make s'mores over them, and you won't be let down because you can't have a campfire. All right, let me interrupt real quick. I just wanted to remind you that we just updated our 50 best free campsites in America, one per every state. If you want to get access to that, I dropped a link below in the comments and in the description. That will set you up for all the best free camping, so check that out. The next thing to avoid is nasty tasting campsite water. I promise you that you cannot depend on the campsite water to taste good. Almost everywhere in America, you can't depend on tap water to taste great. So we use water filtration. If you do anything at all, just buy a $15 Camco water filter. It goes externally on the hose, and it will at least improve the water taste by 50%. There are other things you can do beyond that with internal water filters. We have like 3 different water filters in our RV. It's a little overkill, but we can get good tasting water wherever we are in America. The next thing, lock up your stuff. Don't trust the RV neighbors. I don't want to sound like a cynic, and the RVers that we've met on the road have been amazing people, but never get into the blind habit of trusting your neighbor. The minute you have that sense of security in your neighbors, it's gonna backfire and something's gonna get stolen. For good measure, we just carry around a bike chain and lock everything up at the end of the night, because even if someone tries to steal it, they'll have to at least rattle stuff around and we'll hear it, and it will discourage any potential thief from trying just to steal our stuff. You don't want to make it easy for a thief to walk off with something. Even though you can break through a lock pretty easily, that deterrent will have them probably going on to the next unfortunate soul who trusts their RV neighbor. And the last mistake to avoid is paying for campsites. I promise there are so many amazing free campsites in America. It is our joy of RV life in traveling across the US is to take advantage of these free campsites. They're the most beautiful areas and you have maximum privacy. We'll list the best free campsites up here in the top left-hand corner, 20 of them. That will get you started, but hey, don't be a fool and pay over the top prices for RV parks. Get those free campsites, try some off-grid camping, and get out there and reconnect with nature. See you next time.